Hello and welcome. My name is Amadeus. When I was still in kindergarten in the 80s in Germany, I attended an event from the Southern American tribe of Xavante, indigenous people, where they would show the curious Germans their life in pictures and talks. They told me that in their forest they would work every day for 2 hours only. And one type of work was that the man would lie down in a circle, feet to the middle, and dream. Dreaming is their kind of work to plan for the future, to know what actions are needed and most urgent for a good life of their tribe. Little small Amadeus was thrilled to work towards a life where 2 hours of dreaming every day would be enough and the rest would be free for play. But I learned that the rivers and lakes in Germany were dying. Fish were dying. The toxins, the chemicals from industry and from households were killing the ecosystem of the rivers. I was too young to do anything about that, but the problem got solved. By the means of sewage treatment systems, all rivers and lakes in Europe, or maybe almost all of them, are very clean now. In Switzerland, where I live now, you can drink from any river or lake and you won't get sick. The crisis, they called it the Wolfsterben. It's even internationally known for the German name. And people realized all trees are dying. And I was too young to do anything about that, but the problem got solved. By means of changes of filter systems in industry and cars, different composition of petrol, they changed the toxins that came into the atmosphere, created the toxic rain, and created the Wolfsterben. And in between those times and now, the forests were healthy. Climate change. The burning of fossil fuels changes the composition of the atmosphere. The earth is heating up. And one of the consequences of that is that the ice in the North Pole is melting. And there's less cold air on top of our planet. That less cold air creates a slowing down of the jet stream, which is a wind that goes all the time around the globe on the northern hemisphere. The slowing of the jet stream creates a slowing down of the movement of weather that usually comes from the west and goes to the east in the northern hemisphere. And that creates large patches of cold or hot weather that stay for a month instead of a week. And that created in the last years a few of the hottest and coldest weather situations humankind has ever seen. You've seen these news in the news, like the snow blizzards in the US and the heat waves in Europe. Also, India is facing a change of weather patterns, and people are going to be challenged to deal with temperatures above 50 degrees Celsius, where the border for survivability is considered to be at 43. So there are great changes coming. Young Amadeus heard some of this already in the 80s and went to his father and said, "Father, you need to buy an electric car now." And my father did not consider what I asked him. He answered, "Amadeus, with such radical views, you're not going to have friends." That's considered denial in some form. And the second stage of dealing with the crisis came soon after. Because I was not convinced with the answer, and I went to other people and said, "Listen, you're emitting CO2 into the atmosphere. That is killing millions. You are worse than the Nazis." And maybe some of you feel a little anger right now because I said that. And that's what most people did. So I got a lot of anger. that didn't feel good. So I learned and decided I was not going to use that argument anymore. But I still feel today there's a lot of hate speech because this crisis creates anger. And I hear a lot of talk like, oh my God, the Chinese are polluting so much. And I remember me saying, oh my God, the US is polluting so much. And I hear hate speech against the Russians and so on. All this hate, I think, is the second stage of grief in our current situation of climate change. And the third stage is bargaining. So when I use more advanced and mature techniques of talking to people, I hear answers like, yeah, but people are only going to change when they're really hurting. I've seen people who hurt. They don't become very collaborative. They might become innovative, but also they look out for themselves, not for future generations. They also might say, yes, but first we need to discover this new super innovative technology, then we're going to save the world. And I don't think that this super new technology is going to come fast enough to make a big change to this problem. Also, I realize that within all this tension, it's so easy to create any scandal and put up a website or a post and say, oh my God, this is a scandal. And that's why there's fake news about practically everything. And the fake news distributes and moves through the internet faster than the truth. So I'm sure you all heard way more fake news about renewable energy than truth. Some of this fake news is going to be used for bargaining and say, yes, but I heard that. And whenever I start a discussion, I hear 80% fake news and 20% truth. When the bargaining questions are answered, some certainty settles in. The certainty that CO2 is going to be more and more emitted. The certainty that climate is going to change. The certainty that we might not make it. The certainty that oil is just too cheap not to use it at all. The certainty that oceans and earth are already full of plastic. The certainty that doing very small incremental betterments of existing technology will never change the whole problem, fix the whole problem. Making something less harmful is not putting it away. So with this certainty, it's easy to fall into a state of depression. And I think that many of you might have experienced that, or might have seen somebody who's experiencing that. And I hope we all try to be ready and help those who feel like that to move on, because it's not the best place to stay. The way onward from this state of depression in dealing with the crisis is acceptance. Acceptance that millions will die, billions will be refugees. And for me, it's the acceptance that we should stop asking if we are going to make it and start asking how am I going to deal with the emerging situation that will come. For me, that means I accept that this crisis is coming, and I will continue to change no matter how late we are. But how can I continue to change? How can I promote the change in the world? I will not go around and make people angry anymore. I will create, or I am creating, a vision of a perfectly beautiful, healthy and sustainable future. An imaginary but possible, technologically aided civilization can live happily on planet Earth. It's an aesthetic style of a luxurious, ideal Garden Eden life, where global, electric, renewable mobility for everybody is naturally possible, where houses provide cool or warm depending on the climate, spaces without using fossil fuels. Where in agriculture, we just heard some changes. I think of a beaver. In agriculture, the water systems all over the planet have to be redesigned by humans so that they can be resilient towards harsher climates. That means, for example, retaining the water wherever rain is falling. And that means when you build a property, try not to let as little rain as possible go away from the property on the surface of the earth. Thinking of houses also, whenever you do build a house, be aware of the responsibility that this house is there for more than one generation and has to be built in a way that it can be used after climate change. And thinking of mobility, when you buy your next car, make really sure if it's possible to make it electric already. Because the change starts to happen when the last petrol car is sold. It does not matter how many kilometers we drive. We must change the whole industry, and car makers have to stop producing petrol cars. And then it's going to take another 20 years. I think of a world where power is produced abundantly and cheaply from wind and solar, which is possible, and where the power is stored to match demand and supply within the day in new batteries from sodium that do not contain any rare earth materials. Lithium batteries are continuing to be used in aviation, for example, in demanding applications. And the mining is going to continue, but it will replace the mining for oil. So there will not be more mining in the future than in the past. The beautiful future many people call solar punk, to make it cool, to make it copyable. And I hope that it will be realized, especially in the countries that have the money to move first, and then be copied by the whole world. Solarpunk is one possible name for a new religious story of salvation. It's going to change the form, to sweep over the world as a social tipping point, bringing a new global understanding and identity as earthlings under the sun, that invest in clean prosperity, in eco-hedonism, in efficient fulfillment of human needs, instead of war and overproduction of garbage. So imagine your life, 100% sustainable, no plastic in the ground or in the ocean, healthy oceans and soils, healthy food for everybody, global travel with electric means for every human, between peaceful nations and villages, global change, interchanging of knowledge and technology about the possibilities to adapt to a changing climate. We will rebuild the biosphere. Let's make it beautiful. Thank you for spreading this idea in your own words and for living it. Thank you.